right, welcome everybody to episode 2 of the War Room podcast. We survived, we beat the odds, we beat canceled culture, and we made it. So I'm your host, Andy, and I want to introduce my boy, Mr. Teflon Don, Mr. Wreck-It Ralph, Rob himself. Rob, how you holding up, man? What's going on?
Andy, what's up, man? Going good, going good. Want to give a nice shout out to our first subscriber, Mr. Zach Nickel. Thank you so much. Good guy. Now going good, man. You know, just getting through COVID life. You know, just quarantine, having fun, spending time with the kid, enjoying myself. How about you?
Good, man. Good. I mean, it's great and all being home, but it's also killing me, and which leads me to my first thing that I'm realizing that my life is absolutely turning into a downward spiral. I had Chinese food last night when you and I talked, and today I was like, what am I going to do for lunch? So I figured out I was going to go to one of the my top fast food restaurants if you have to go with the Power 3. And I went to Wendy's today. And let me tell you, after Wendy's, the nap is real. I slept for about an hour and a half. I'm not proud of it. But
So,
2 bacon cheeseburgers and 2 spicy chicken sandwiches, a small fry, and then a chicken nuggets. Why did I get the chicken nuggets when you get 2 crispy chicken sandwiches? I don't know. But it happened. I'm not proud of it. I just want to get that off my chest so that we can move on from this scenario.
the thing is, though, if you had Chinese food last night, which I know you did, because after you told me that, I got upset and I cried myself to sleep because, you know, my wife hates Chinese food, so I don't get to dabble as much as I'd like. But the fact that you had to wonder what you had for lunch today means that you are doing Chinese food wrong. The beauty of Chinese food is you get like 4 meals out of that. 4 meals. At minimum 4 meals, or you're not doing it right.
See, my problem is like I eat to the point now of where I'm like a high school girl breakup, where it's like at night, like every meal is like my last supper. And I'm sitting there and I just eat to the point of where it's bad. And that's what I do with the Chinese food. Like once we got done talking yesterday, I was like, I'm just going to eat until I'm done. And then I had beef and broccoli, rice, and an extra egg roll this morning for breakfast at 6:30. So,
Attaboy. I am pro Chinese food for breakfast. The best leftover food on the planet. My opinion.
if I don't make it to episode 5, you guys know why.
Man, if I've made it 34 years doing this lifestyle, you'll be all right for a couple months.
Attaboy.
So I did want to start this show on a sad note.
I don't know what's happening.
It's a very sad day for draft Twitter, because the Tennessee Titans have waived Cole McDonald.
Stop it.
It's a sad day. There was a lot of love for Cole McDonald. I'll be honest. He made it probably a month longer than I thought he would.
Stop it.
But it's a sad day. I just want to send my condolences to everyone suffering through this day. I know it's rough. We'll get through this. We will get through this. You guys hear me, right? Everyone hears me? We will get through this. It'll be all right. It'll be good.
I can't wait till we tag Cole McDonald in this video and we can bring him on the show, because that'll be ideal for me. So I can be like, dude, 1, you had the greatest dreadlocks of all time. Why'd you cut them? 2, you got cut because you cut your dreadlocks.
Truth also. Has there ever been a more up and down quarterback? Like there were games where it was literally like it was terrible. Like it was so bad. And then there were other ones where he made throws that there are like Aaron Rodgers couldn't make. There was like 5 times last year where he made a throw that I've never seen anyone do. And then there was like 5 times where I saw a throw that was absolutely horrific and I had no idea what he was thinking.
This is no knock on Hawaii football, but he's a Hawaii football quarterback.
It's a beautiful thing. Colt Brennan for life, dude. Come on.
Hey.
For life.
The thing that's great is something that's going to come up later in the episode is this may not be the last people hear of Colt Brennan coming out of your mouth. And that's what's going to be great.
Cole McDonald.
Excuse me, Cole McDonald. He could be your number 1 pick.
Oh, what are you talking about?
I don't want to get into that yet, but that's a little, a little tease, a little salt bay for later.
I like that.
But I'm really upset that you brought him up this early on. I thought it was gonna wait. I thought you were going to be okay. I thought you'd make it through the complete
I'm
day.
fine. I'm fine. I told you he made it longer than I thought he would. But there's a lot of grieving people out there, and I want them to know Rob has their back. That's all. Big teddy bear.
Unbelievable. Speaking of teddy bear, you going to show off the shirt at all? You want to shout out? You shout out the shirt. Show it off. You're going with Raider Nation style. I'm going with just the straight up.
I like that. Yeah, got this in the other day. Got some nice family pictures. Got one for my son also. Our dog's face, Bo, Raider Shield on the back. That's at DC4L Custom Tees. Awesome guy, awesome family. They do some great work. You've been seeing these things all over Twitter. A ton of people are doing this, but wanted to give him a shout out. He does some. He's made some pretty cool stuff for me and the fam. So wanted to give him a shout out. Definitely
very nice. Very nice. Gonna have to try him out for some Bills Mafia type stuff in the near future. That's for sure.
I hope he charges you double. That would be fantastic.
That's fine. If he sends it to me with a folding table, I'm set. It's like it's shirts and tables, done.
Like it.
Done. But no, in all seriousness, now I know we start off the show with a joke, but there's some of the big things that we want to dive into today. Last week we talked real heavy on the draft and who we're talking about. Now we're really diving into some of those current event roles. So one of the big things that is just taking the NFL by storm, but not the front run media. And it's stuff that more Rob and I love to talk about. And it's the new implications with college football and what's going to happen with the NFL draft. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of conferences that completely shut down or made that famous statement is we're going to try for the spring, which is just absolutely impossible. But a lot of conferences are shutting down, and outside of a lot of conferences shutting down, a lot of the players are opting out of this year. So some of the big things that we want to talk about today is just what does that mean? What does that mean for the NFL draft? What does that mean for these players? And is it going to help players and is it going to hurt players? And that's a big topic on my mind. So, for instance, one of the big things that I just realized today looking at all the different notes is all of the FCS schools basically said they're done. They're done. They shut down. And one of the top quarterback prospects of this year's draft isn't playing football. And I know Rob doesn't have the same opinion as I do regarding that quarterback, but he's not playing football this year. How does that affect his draft stock being from not the Power 5 schools, not the mid-majors? He was coming from the FCS. What's going to happen with that, and how is that going to work? For some schools, it doesn't matter. Ivy League schools, it doesn't matter. Those schools, they still produce pro athletes, and they do it at a high clip, but they can always figure it out and go from there. But some of these schools, like the North Dakota States of the world, what's going to happen to those players? So, Rob, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that to start.
It's interesting because, at first when we brought up the idea of talking about this, I almost thought like it was a little too early for us to talk about this because there's still some things that have to drop. But at the same time, it's also, I started to think that maybe it's the perfect time to talk about it because those stones that still have to drop, could be big, could be very big. Right now, you're reading about, the transfer portal and our player, if these other conferences decide, hey, we're doing this, the transfers are going to be nuts. It's going to be all over the place. Which is as a fan, it's fun to think about. And man, from where we're sitting from, I don't want to go into next year with nothing but 2019 tape. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I want to see these kids play. I have so many guys I'm amped up to watch this year, and it might not happen. So all we have is 2019, 2018 tape. So obviously we want to see it happen, but it is kind of early because we don't know, if a couple of the conferences do make it happen, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. But in my opinion, man, I just don't see it happening. I really don't. And it's bad. It's terrible. And my question is now, how does that, as far as the draft goes, if you're a GM and you have no tape from anyone in 2020, is it wrong to want to trade your draft picks for proven commodities, even though that price structure is going to be there and they're not going to be 22, 20, 23, 21 years old? like the big name out there right now is Ngakoue, Yannick Ngakoue. Like, why wouldn't you at this point trade? Not necessarily a one. I'm not saying a one, but in some cases, like with Jamal Adams a couple weeks ago, I don't see a problem with that at all. You know what I mean? You don't know what that first round pick's going to be. If Seattle has pick 25 to 30 in that range, like you're that's a tough pick, man. I'm not against it. Like it's so much could play out because of this. So I'm just kind of curious to see how it goes. And, I'm starting to now look at players that might be available via trade. That's kind of where I'm going with this right now, because I really don't think college football is going to happen. I have no reason. I have no inside tip or anything like that. I don't think it's going to happen because it's too risky for them, I think.
No, I agree. I mean, that's one area that I didn't even think about was the whole aspect of, if you look at the roster buildup of every single team, not every team is built up of first and second round draft picks. A majority of your football team in the pros is built up of 3 through 7 and undrafted free agent signings. This year, without as much film on these guys, what's the point of taking a flyer on a guy that had a 1-year waiver that was great? I mean, a perfect example is a guy that opted out of the year, which is kind of funny because he opted out of playing, but their conference canceled anyway. It's Warren Jackson out of Colorado State. So he had the best year for his conference. He's a great tall receiver, had over 1,000 yards receiving, was great that year, but he has 1 year worth of film. Am I going to take a flyer on him? I don't even know. He had 1 year worth of film in a mid-major conference where I know when we'll get into it later on when it comes to the draft, like, it depends on where you play and how you play and your competition you play against. That gets you a different grade in the draft. Granted, it depends on position to position, where quarterback, it's a little bit different. You can read progressions and you can see that a quarterback has eyes and can see a wide receiver and can throw a guy open. But a wide receiver, if you're playing against subpar defensive backs and you have your first 1,000-yard receiving year as a junior, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's the route to go. The other route that a lot of kids are doing that are opting out of playing and or their conferences have been canceled is they're going, I'm going to take a redshirt year. The NCAA is allowing them to take a redshirt year, which I think is fantastic. That's an awesome opportunity for them to say, you know what, I can't play due to health reasons. I'm going to take a redshirt year, see where everything comes around. But again, it hurts them because I don't know what their home life's like. I don't know if they're strapped for cash. I don't know if they can take another year when they're banking on going to the NFL and making bank to provide for their family. But it's just going to be a super interesting year where, to your point, it's like, if I'm, and I'll always talk about the Buffalo Bills, if I'm the GM of the Buffalo Bills, I will trade whatever outside of the first round to get Ngakoue. Why not? Why not? Because you just don't know the commodities of those players. And if these conferences that are scheduled to play, like the ACC and the SEC, do their conference rotation, you're just going to see them play each other. So you're basically going to see Alabama, Auburn. It's like, great, Alabama, Auburn is fantastic, but you're not going to see a wide receiver that was playing for the Citadel take on Alabama and that wide receiver light up a corner. You know what I mean? So we're going to miss out on the guys that you and I love in this draft, which is our Christmas, is going to turn into nothing. It's going to turn into nothing.
Keep in mind, too, with the redshirt idea, it is awesome, but one of the biggest knocks that you hear on players when they're coming out is their age. So often you hear, yeah, but he's 24. That red shirt doesn't take away a year from your age. You know what I mean? It does take a year off of production, but also, takes less tread off the tires, which is a good thing, but they're still adding another year. And then you have all these guys that, honestly, man, there's a lot of players out there that need the money. They need money. So it's such an interesting situation. It really is. And I know we were talking before, we're still trying to go through our 2019 tape on the kids coming out this year, but man, there's not a lot of them that I would just be, I'm 100% positive on right now that, what would happen if what about this year's Joe Burrow, the guy that out of nowhere And I know Joe Burrow himself is like, that's not an every year thing, but every year there's a few guys that out of nowhere jump up. And something else, man, that we should honestly talk about. Can you imagine what the combine would be like next year if there's no college football? That would be incredible. That would be a month-long process. It would be incredible.
I would honestly cancel the combine. And here's what I'm saying. Every school should do their own satellite combine where it's like every school has their private workouts, but that's literally what you would have to do. Because who are you going to invite? Like, you could miss out on the Joe Burrows of the world, to your point. Like, you're not going to get a guy who could have exploded this year on the scene. Like, you're going to have every single school spend their money that was spent for travel for football on hosting their own NFL combine, which would be amazing for us because we would love that. I would watch Little Sisters of the Baptist Bible, third school, twice removed in Pennsylvania's NFL combine.
I would want it just because we're not going to be able to travel to these things. I would want them all in a central location.
But who do you invite?
Open it up, man. Make it, instead of a week thing, make it a month thing. Invite triple the amount of people that you would normally invite.
Well, you know the NFL. The NFL's a money grab.
They'll do it. They'll make their money on that. They'll absolutely make their money on that.
They're paying for the travel. Are they paying? Like, that's the thing that I don't know enough about. Are they paying for the travel for the players to get there? Are they paying for the hotel? Like, are the players paying for the agent fees? Like, the interviews, the coaches? Like, what is getting paid? The NFL is just – I love the NFL, and I will never talk extremely bad about it, but it's a business at the end of the day.
It is. To be honest with you, I would have thought that the agents paid for that. I would have thought. I don't know, but I would think that the agents would be paying for that.
That's a good conversation, too, is how many agents now are not going to sign players or are going to have weird stipulations in their contracts based upon not knowing if the player is going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, once you're done with your senior year or your junior year, even though you're not supposed to talk to players because of the NCAA rule, agents find a way to talk to the Chase Youngs of the world, the Joe Burrows of the world.
I would think it's marketability more for them at this point, because you got a year now. They'll have a year removed from football for those guys like, Micah Parsons that said, I'm opting out. I'm training for the NFL draft right now. There's essentially a year that he's going to be removed from football. He's still very marketable. So, I mean, again, I know that there's not many of him, but like, I would think that the agents are going to kind of go that route and then try to, because once they're out of school, they can do whatever they want. That's when you can start with the, all the commercials and really starting to profit off that, and just sign in with the the different shoe companies, shoe deals, stuff like that.
Do you think that he's that everybody that's opting out of playing, I know this is a crazy question and it doesn't really matter, everybody that's opting out of playing, do you think they're dropping out of school? Do you lose your that's a good question too, and I don't know the answer. So if anybody knows the answer, please tweet at us, hit us up on Instagram, or write a comment below. If you opt out of playing, do you lose your scholarship?
Some might be different.
You never know. I mean,
yeah, I have no idea.
It's interesting. And one of the best players in my eyes that I saw coming out as a defensive end, and he wasn't able to come out, is now opting out, is Greg Rousseau out of the DN out of Miami. Like, dude's a freak. Dude's a stud. He's really young as can be. And he's like, I'm opted out. I'm not going to play. And he's going to go to the NFL draft. And he's going to be a first-round pick. But it's scary because you never know. I mean, he's got all the physical traits. He's got all the he does everything. But he played on Miami. He had 1 year, and you just don't know. So it's going to be a very interesting year, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens. It's a lot of question marks, and that's why part of me, and we didn't even talk about this, part of me wishes that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson right now came out and was like, we're gonna start the XFL up, and we're gonna do it in a bubble. Who wants in? And it would be interesting to see how many college kids would be like, we're out. We're going to go play there. We're going to go play in this bubble. We're going to do, or whatever they figure out. And he'll be like, we'll pay anybody. And that those players can then get drafted in the NFL after the fact.
That would be so cool.
God, that would be amazing.
That would be so cool. Yo, Uncle Dwayne, make that happen.
Uh,
Make it happen.
you know, we'll send him this. We'll send him this.
Yeah,
We're close.
absolutely.
We're close.
Absolutely.
I knew him when he wore a fanny pack.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I got with that. I mean, it's so crazy. I mean, everything is just shifting. I mean, you have the teams that are not affiliated, and I hate Notre Dame. My hatred for Notre Dame is deep from the movie Rudy, which I think is just an absolute terrible movie, all the way.
Your movie hot takes are just absolutely horrific. I can't stand it. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say
Rudy. We'll go Rudy, and we'll say Rocky. I hate the Rocky movies because you have to watch them in subtitles, and I don't like to read when I'm watching a movie. If I'm watching The Passion of Christ and I'm going to take religion out of this, I don't want to watch subtitles. I'm not going to do it. But to go back to Notre Dame.
Hold on.
No. Notre Dame now.
Anybody watching this video, if you want to learn how not to get followers and subscribers, probably stating a hot take about the greatest movie of all time, Rocky, not being good is probably a good way of doing that. Go on, as you were.
I can't wait. You know what? That's fine. We're gonna get at least double our followers, which isn't gonna be that hard. We'll be able to get that worked out by next week.
My God, how can, honestly, as an Italian guy too?
Whoa!
How can you say that? Like, how? An Italian guy that loves sports and loves boxing, even better, a huge boxing fan.
Raging Bull. Have you seen
How? Yes, but come on. How can you say that?
That's
how?
It. I'll even put Cinderella Man above those.
Oh my God.
Dude, I just can't with Creed. I was okay with Creed. Creed 1, Creed 2, fine with that. I think it's just Stallone.
The greatest motivator in the history of the world, Sylvester Stallone.
What was the one of my favorite? What was it? Grim the Reaper. What was it? Great White Hope? No. What's the boxing movie with the Grim Reaper? Crap. It's an Irish boxer. He fights. I'm gonna forget about it. I'm not gonna remember it, but I'll talk about it later on. He's a fat boxer. He's out of shape, and he ends up fighting this Irish boxer at the end of the movie and just knocks him out in one punch. I'm not gonna be able to.
I'm just seeing Butterbean in my head right now.
No, but Butterbean is a fantastic individual.
He is.
But no, I mean,
really sidetracking, but I actually got to see him fight in AC once.
That's not a sidetrack. That should be topic 1 of the conversation.
This dude, he fought this guy that came in with like a cowboy hat on and boxing shorts. That's it, and he knocked him out literally in like a minute.
It's just like when I went to go see Gold Glove Boxing, and I thought it was the greatest thing on earth.
Gold Glove was so cool.
You see all these young kids just going out there and trying to figure out, and some of them just go out there to try to scrap, while other ones go out there and actually have technique and just knock them down. And the parents are sitting right next to me crying, and I'm just laughing because it's great. But
how the hell did we get on this?
Because I was making fun of Notre Dame because Notre Dame actually finally got put into a conference, which I hate Notre Dame, and I talked about this before. The Notre Dame broadcast channel, the NBC, like, I think that's so stupid. I think Notre Dame should be forced into a conference. They're ACC for everything that they do besides football, and I think it's ridiculous. And I think the fact that now that they're ACC because of the pandemic, they should have to stick with ACC, but they're the only ones of the non-affiliated schools that are actually playing this year. I mean, granted, there's other schools that nobody wants to play because they're just absolute garbage, or have been, like UConn. UConn said that they were trendsetters, and they're canceling their season. UConn hasn't been relevant since, I don't know, when they won the national championship in basketball. Like, it doesn't matter about UConn football.
No love for Obi Melifonwu.
And he was a flop. And UMass football. I mean, UMass football had the wide receiver that got drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And then New Mexico canceled.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
It is. It really, really is. Definitely is. What are your so for the second one? What are your thoughts on the practice squad rule?
I love it.
This is going to be a nice segue into our fun little tease that we talked about earlier. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be awesome. I think the new practice squad rule is going to be amazing. So for anybody that doesn't know about this new practice squad rule, so basically you're now able to carry up to 16 players on your practice squad. And that can include 6 veteran players. So the best part about that is the practice squad, and Rob, correct me, like in the past, it was you couldn't have a combined more than 2 years of actual NFL games, or I think it was like 6 games in a season or something like that. Whatever it was, is you couldn't be active in a game playing and make a practice squad. Now they completely were just like, you know what, screw it. Like anybody can make the practice squad. 6 members out of your 16 can make the practice squad, which is awesome. And then outside of that is now they have the rule where you have 4 protected practice squad players, which turns into a Russian roulette style, because you can cut a guy at the end of this and hope that he makes it through and then stash him on your protected practice squad. But you really have to be gambling and like wait till the last minute, maybe misspell his name on Twitter or do whatever so that nobody understands like he got released. I don't know. I think it's great. What do you think?
I love it. I think it's really cool. I think we got to give props to Bruce Arians for this one. He was the one that the first one I remember anyway that really came out, and his main concern was the quarterback position. Obviously, with if we usually carry 2-3 quarterbacks on a roster, what if them being confined to a room? What if one of them gets COVID and 2 of them gets it? We should have more spots on our roster this year. He was the one that kind of made that public. The first one I saw anyway. And then this is kind of what they got out of it. But you can really use this as a great strategy too, because so many teams have players that are strictly on the roster because they are scheme fits. And we all say it as fans, why is this guy on the team? He wouldn't play for any other team. We hear it all the time. These guys have valuable roles, and now this is essentially an extended roster limit now. Mm-hmm. For the most part, because we're right. There are guys on every one of our teams that would not play for another team. Those guys can now be extended essentially into a larger roster. I think it's fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love it for the aspect of, I hope it doesn't go the route of you're signing a lot of veteran players that are like street free agents that after a while, like, all right, that this defensive tackle has been in the league for 4 years. He got cut from a roster, nobody picked him up, and you're stashing him on your practice squad. I would love it for the aspect of you take that raw talent, that raw wide receiver, and you just store him on, like you protect him on your practice squad and just work with him for an entire year. I mean, there are those players in the league that are just not ready, that are not ready to play. That, I mean, this year's draft is a perfect example. Like there was a lot of players that you and I talked about in our first episode where we were confused on why they fell, and they did fall. But then there's also players that were undrafted free agents that are probably going to get cut, but it's like they could still play. In any other normal year, they could have gotten drafted, whether they had a combine or they had their pro day or whatever they did. Those are the players that are going to be unique to see stored. And it's just, you're going to see a lot of projects that are saved in those saved spots where it's going to be crazy. I'm going to love every minute of it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when the first team, hopefully nobody, knock on wood, gets hit with COVID. But what happens where, okay, your quarterback, your starting wide receiver, backup offensive lineman, and all these are in COVID protocol. What happens? What if you didn't have those type of players to pull up? And then it's just going to be unique. It's going to be crazy.
Agreed. And you got the IR rule too.
Yeah, the IR rule is fantastic. I mean, IR in the past you'd have to be on there till what was it, week 9 or something almost? You
had one player that was eligible to be lifted off of it, essentially. And now, from my understanding, it's unlimited after week 3, right? Or after 3 weeks.
Yep, after 3 weeks. You can be on there for 3 weeks. So IR, anybody can come back, which is great, but it's also going to be interesting to see what team is the first one that gets fined for falsifying records or injuries. So that'll be good. But I mean, I don't know. I would love to be a practice squad player. Looking at the practice squad salary of $8,000 a week. So if you're doing that for 17 weeks, I mean, you're making $136,000 a year. So I could be okay with that. I'll catch balls.
I'm in.
Jamarcus Russell. Doesn't matter. I'll do it.
I don't think he would play on a practice squad.
He can make it. Him and Vince Young.
I'm actually wearing Texas shorts. You can't tell. University of Texas shorts. So.
Do I ask why?
I used to like them back in the day. They were fun.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a thing. They were, JCPenney, big and tall. $9 probably. Why not? What's the matter? Comfy, dude.
I used to shop at that store against all odds. I don't even know if that store is still around.
Yeah. It was. I mean, pre-COVID, it was. Yeah. God, that place. Ugh. I did too.
What do you mean? Ugh. You mean?
No. It's not. I don't know. I'm.
My wife burned all of my shirts when we started dating from that store. Like, I literally had to change my entire outfit. I don't think she knows I'm wearing this Wu-Tang shirt right now.
There's nothing wrong with it.
We ain't nothing to fuck with. It's just what.
No. Flavor. It's all flavor. That's all it is.
Nah. But now, I think we're at the point of the show where we should talk about the meat and potatoes, where we should talk about what you're giddy about, what you're excited about, what I'm excited about. Our idea and our plan for the next couple of weeks to come as we get closer to the season. So I'll kick it off and then I'll dish it over to Rob over here. But the big thing that we're going to start to do is we thought it would be a cool idea, especially with this year and how crazy things are going to go. We're both going to become our own, basically, owners of a franchise. We can name our franchises if we want. We probably will. And we're gonna start this out on a week-by-week basis. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the next couple of weeks. Rob's going to start off next week. We're going to basically pick our coaching staffs. We're going to talk about why we picked our coaching staffs, our schemes. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to basically do a draft. So I'll kick that over to Rob, and I'll let Rob just talk about that a little bit more.
So this isn't going to be like when we're creating our coaching staff. This isn't going to be like, oh, well, I'm picking Bill Belichick to be my coach. And Andy's like, well, I'm gonna pick Bill Walsh from the 1980s to be my coach. That's not what we're doing. Essentially, every coach that we take, it would have to be a promotion from where they are now. So we cannot pick an existing NFL head coach to be our head coach. However, we can pick within reason. We're not gonna be stupid about this, but like we can pick collegiate coaches to be our head coach. However, we're not going to take Nick Saban. We're not going to do that. That's kind of just a throwaway, to be honest. So it has to be either a promotion from a position they're in now, meaning an offensive coordinator in the NFL, defensive coordinator in the NFL, or even a position coach if you want to go that route, or a collegiate coach to be our head coach. For the coordinator spot, it has to be a position coach from the NFL or a coordinator from the collegiate level. Has to be one or the other. It cannot be another head coach. It cannot be a collegiate head coach. It has to be either a coordinator in collegiate football or a position coach in the NFL. All right, for both offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Now, for the position coaches, we are going to do this. We're not going to go all out. We're not going to have assistant defensive line coaches. We are going to have a special teams coach. We are going to have an O-line coach, a D-line, linebacker, secondary, running back, wide receiver, all of them. We're going to have all of them. Those have to be current position coaches in the NFL or current position coaches in college. So the reason we're doing this is, I said in the first episode that I want people to learn more about the X's and O's of football. And I want people to learn more about how we think and what styles of football that we like. Andy and I differ very much in this.
Yep.
There's going to be bickering. There's going to be arguing. But we both have reasoning for why we believe that way. And we both will respect the other's opinion because we know that we know a lot about that. So this way, when we're taking these coaches, we can sit there and say, this is why I'm going with this, because I love the spread offense or whatever it's going to be, or I want to have an attacking defense with a dual A gap defense like Zimmer runs in Minnesota, stuff like that. Not saying we're going to take that. That's just why we're going to do it, because we're going to talk a little bit more about the schemes that we like. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to roll into what was it, September 5th?
So I believe September 5th is when they do final roster cuts.
So what we're going to do then is when NFL teams cut down from 80 to 53, there's going to be, and honestly, we can even use some of the guys that have been released, prior to the 80.
I understand who you're going with. Yes, you can.
Well, no, but also, I
won't draft your bag.
We could have a lot of fun with this and actually take some guys that weren't even drafted or signed as undrafted free agents.
Oh yeah, they're all fair game.
Fun. But anyway, so all 27 of those players plus will be thrown into a pool, and we are going to be doing a live draft. We are going to draft our rosters based upon those guys. We will give good reasons for why we're taking those guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just wish we could find somebody to maybe put us in Madden and simulate a game between you and I to see who wins. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd come out on top, but it would be fine. But our big thing is that we're going to take players that are getting released that are not your run-of-the-mill play. Like if it's a 7-year NFL vet, it's not like we're going to take him on our team. Well, we're looking at taking.
I don't know.
Oh, you're gonna go that route? Oh, I'm gonna beat you.
I don't know.
I could beat you with straight up rookies. That's fine. So Rob's gonna go the route of taking.
I did not say that.
I'm gonna go the route of taking players that were not kept on roster. We can't take practice squad players, which is going to be interesting to see. Actually, you know what? We can take.
We can.
Yeah, we can pull practice squad players. But yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to be great. We're gonna figure out a way in which we're gonna draft. It's probably gonna be a little rock paper scissors to see who gets first pick.
It will not be rock paper scissors.
Absolutely, you won today. So why are you trying to back down from that?
I won't win again.
No. But that's what we're gonna do moving forward. So next week, you guys will hear from Rob talking about his team, his coaching staff, his philosophy that he goes through. The following week, we'll go over my coaching staff, and then from there, we'll start to go into the draft. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a good time. And yeah, like you said, if anybody out there can put this into Madden, it would be great to watch a live stream of my team just completely annihilating Rob's team. Yeah, that's what I got.
I can't wait. I'm amped up about it. That's going to be good.
No, but I think all said and done, it's going to be good. I know we're up against it right now, Rob. I know we're on the end of episode 2. We haven't been canceled yet, so this is great. I appreciate all the followers. Zach Nickel, thank you. Appreciate you. Everybody else that's going to be coming on board. But the biggest things is make sure that you guys follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. It's _WarRoom33.
Also, please follow us on YouTube too. Any suggestions you guys have, any comments, any remarks, please comment below. The War Room Podcast. Go for it.
Awesome. We appreciate you guys. Until next week, we'll see you.
Later, everybody.